Hey gamers, welcome back to Deus Ex Human Revolution walkthrough part 2. This is going to be the Seraph manufacturing plant. And before we go there, we're going to first meet up with Pritchard, get our heads-up display back online, and then we're off to the plant. But also, remember, I did mention that I'm going to show you how to get the Doctor achievement for all of 29 unique ebooks, and there is your first one right there. You can tell that it is it's going to count towards part of your achievement, that those are the ebooks you want, because when you check them, they'll give you a little bonus on the side that says Scholar, and you'll get about 200 experience points for that. So it's a nice way to keep track of that stuff. This is the first one, and I'll keep a count on the description of the video to show you, so that way you can keep track of what if you possibly missed one. I think the best advice I can give anyone who's been playing this game, regardless of what style you want to play, regardless of why you're watching these videos, I think that the best advice I will possibly give you is save often, and save often. Uh, you never know when you might run into a situation where you know things can. In this game, there is a bit of randomness to it, and that randomness, especially if you're trying to go for an achievement as difficult as not trying to get a guard killed, or don't be detected. All it takes is one little fuck up, and you're pretty much screwed. So the game does a good job of autosaving fairly liberally, and it gives you pretty good checkpoints, but you still want to save as often as you can. On the computer, on the PC, it's nice because you have a real nice quick save button. I don't know if they have that on the consoles, but even if they don't, just go ahead and save the game as often as you can. I think that is the best advice I can give you, because that allows you, that will save a lot of time. It On these videos I make it look like I'm doing all this in one run through, but it certainly isn't the case. I screwed up plenty of times just recording these videos, and having that quick save there it definitely saved me a whole lot of hassle, because I could just reload that very quickly. So on this first section here, I'm going to show you what weapon to start off with. I think the stun gun is the best one to go with. Obviously, you're trying to go for the non-lethal approach. And initially, the first time I played the game, I used a tranq rifle. And like I said in my earlier video, the rifle is good because it can knock out guards, but at the same time, a dart to the head, if you're going for the headshot, which you usually want to do, still can kill a guard. It's unfortunate. I think it's their attempt at being a little more realistic, but personally, I think that's a little dumb to have a weapon that can, the whole point is to knock a guard out, and then even though you're knocking them out, you actually kill them. Makes it almost useless if you're trying to go for this achievement. So I didn't go for that. I think the stun gun is a better weapon to use. So far, at least on this first level, you really won't need to use it. Again, for the most part, you generally won't even need to use it. You can pretty much go through the game without having to even touch a single guard. But if you're going to use a weapon, especially when you get to the boss battles, which I'll talk about when we get to those points, because those are truly annoying. So when we get to that section, I'll talk about what weapons to use, what strategy is best. But up until that point, I mean, you really don't need to have any weapons in your inventory. Um, so it doesn't really matter which weapon you choose. But me personally, just if I'm in a tight spot, I'd rather like knowing that I have the stun gun available. So I kind of went with that. Now, one of the things I really liked about this game, and it's pretty evident right here, is freedom of choice and how you want to approach each situation. If you looked on the right side, there was a couple of ramps that you could take leading up, which would allow you to again bypass all these guards and enter the building through the roof. Or you could take this approach that I'm taking right now, and then that is again a perfectly valid way of getting through the game. And both ways you can. I've done it both ways without alerting any guards. So it's one of the things that I think really they do. They do make their. I mean, they do make their promise. They do make their claim. It's a valid claim that they make when they say that this is a game of choice and a game of freedom, and you really do have a lot of freedom in how you want to tackle any situation. Personally, I kind of like going through the left better, because that guard that you saw in the beginning, he can spot you if you try to go up through the right on the ramps. So I personally like this way better. But again, if you feel like you want to go through the right, by all means, go ahead. There's really only one way you ultimately want to get to. And if you look on the left side here, you'll see that I just got that ghost bonus. And the ghost bonus, for those who don't know, is getting through an area without alerting any guards. Now, this bonus is not going to count towards your Foxiest of the Hounds. That achievement is specifically related to alarms. So even if you don't get that bonus, you can still get the achievement if you happen to alert a guard, but you prevent him from activating any alarm, you can still get the achievement and it won't count against you. But me personally, I like getting that bonus because, like I said earlier, I'm going to go through this game as quickly as possible. I'm going to try and minimize as many side missions. I'm going to try and minimize as many encounters and deviations off the main path as possible because you don't want to take the risk of running into the wrong area, having to, it makes it a lot more difficult. So getting the ghost bonus is nice because it adds an extra 500 experience points, which is always, it's always helpful. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I like trying to go through the game and getting that bonus. And this part, it's actually, once you run through this area a few times, it's actually not too bad. It's a fairly simple area. There is a side objective where you have to rescue the hostages, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. Again, it's mainly for the experience. If you don't rescue them, it's not going to affect the game. I don't think so. I don't think it'll count as a kill. But just to be safe, I kind of rescue the hostages anyway. It's really not that hard. And like I said, you get the experience points for it. And yeah, so I'll show you how to get that. The other thing I want to mention in this game is kind of the augmentations and where to spend your augmentations. This I kind of leave to your discretion. If you watch my playthroughs, I'll show you how I augment myself, and really I augment kind of very reactively, in the sense that I save all my practice points for if I can get through a situation without having to use any augmentation, that is a big bonus in what I try and do. But if there comes a situation where I have to use a specific augment, I will eventually end up using it in that way. But really, for the most part, I know that you can get through this game without having to augment yourself at all. It makes the game a hell of a lot harder if you try and do it that way, but it is an option. They said that you can play through the game without augmenting yourself in any direction, and you can still beat the game if you choose to do so. You have to make some choices if you do, and I think again that speaks to how well they've designed the game and made it so that it fits pretty much any gamer's playstyle. For me though, I find myself there are certain situations in which I like to get certain augmentations, especially if you're trying to avoid guards, avoid cameras. There are certain augmentations that are really helpful to have. And by that, I don't necessarily mean you have to have the stealth, you have to have the invisibility cloak. Surprisingly, there are, again, being creative is always a bonus in this game, and it's always rewarded. So sometimes, like, getting things like the strength augmentation is useful because it can be used for stealth purposes. So that's actually one of the first augments I get, and I'll show you where I get it and why I get it. So this part right here, like I said, just save the hostages and then kind of climb your way back. You can exit through the door, and if you choose to do so, there is another way to get through that area, but there was a security guard and a security camera in the other path that you take, and I wasn't a big fan of that, so I kind of just chose to work my way back here. I found it to be a little bit easier. Another thing I would always advise you to do as well is to pay attention to your HUD. Your heads-up display, your radar. The radar is really nice because it shows you the movement of the enemies, which is very useful, especially when you're in an area where you can't see them, but they can't see you, but you can still see them on the radar, so it gives you an idea of which direction they're facing and when to move away and when they're going to move away, and that way you can stay out of their cone of vision, because on the harder difficulty, their vision is actually larger, so it makes it easier for them to spot you. So like you saw right there, I kind of waited for that guard to pass by. And again, here's the first security camera, and I show you how to get through it without alerting the camera. I'm not going to sit here and try and figure out whether or not activating this camera, prevents the achievement from unlocking, because there is no smooth operator bonus on this level. So I honestly have no clue, but it really doesn't matter. I just avoid all cameras all the time, so if someone can clarify that for me, that'd be great. But me personally, I didn't really give a shit. I avoid all the cameras anyway, so I just avoided that one and then kind of hacked through this door. And there's really only um, two more areas that we have to go through before we finish this level off, and they're not too bad. There's actually a nice little shortcut that I'll show you right on the left side that allows you to bypass pretty much this entire area. Um, and again, this is really one of the things I like about it is just they really reward locating and finding these different ways and finding different pathways through the game. It's something that you don't see in games a lot of nowadays, where it's more of a situation of they kind of show you. They always give you a checkpoint, not a checkpoint, but they'll give you I can't think of the word right now, but they'll tell you like where your objective locator, I guess if you want to call it that, where exactly your objective is and how to get there. And there's only one way to get there. In this game, they don't really say that. Just say, here's your starting point, here's your end point. Figure out how to get there on your own. Do whatever you want, and we'll reward you for everything you do and everything you don't do. So I find that pretty impressive. It's definitely a game that kind of assumes that you can think for yourself and it doesn't have to do all the thinking for you. When you exit through this door, be careful. There was a guard there, and I don't know if I wasn't sure exactly if he saw me or not, but just try and be careful of that. But I think that is it's a pretty easy area, I think, and once you get through, you'll pretty much head on through the elevator down here. Now, in this next section, you're going to find a security camera, and you'll also see a turret. But here's where you get your first praxis kit, sorry. And I show you right here, I augment myself to get the strength upgrade where I can lift heavier objects, and I show you exactly why I do that. And the reason I do that is because I want to get one of the ebooks, but in order to do that, I kind of have to move this turret. Now, if you want to get the if the turret spots you, it won't affect the Foxiest of the Hounds achievement. Like, it won't set off any alarms. It won't do anything like that. But if it does spot you, it will affect your ghost bonus, which again, like I said, for me, I want to get those bonuses, so I got the strength upgrade, and I kind of just came here and pushed this turret off to the side. And also, I think it's a useful upgrade. I think the strength upgrade is actually one I really enjoyed because it came in handy in a lot of different situations. So it's an upgrade that I was I got, and I think it's for me. I think it's definitely one of the most useful early game upgrades to get. So I would highly suggest you get that one. Once you move that turret out of the way, it should be a pretty easy stretch from here. Just avoid the security camera, watch their line of sight, and then once you do, you're going to see there's a room right here on the left, and in this room there will be a terminal which you can hack, but there's really nothing you can do right now because you're not augmented to hack cameras or anything. But if you look right here, you get your second unique ebook, and that will net you another 200 experience points. Now, here's a part where I screwed up a little bit. It doesn't affect anything. I still got the ghost bonus at the end, but there was a concussion mine placed right here that I didn't notice, and when I got a little too close, it kind of set it off. But the camera still didn't spot me, so I kind of got away with that. But I would actually recommend you go again through the vent on the right side and just kind of avoid that altogether. Or if you move slow enough, you can kind of disarm that mine. But yeah, for me, I kind of screwed up a little bit over there. Also, I try and skip all the cutscenes. I think for a lot of people who are watching these videos, I think you've played through the game at least once. I hope you've played through the game at least once. I certainly wouldn't recommend this as your first playthrough for a number of reasons. I think the main reason I wouldn't recommend it as a first playthrough is because the story, the atmosphere, all that stuff about this game is, to me, I think the best part about this game. One of the things I really liked. When I was watching this game, it gave me a lot of Blade Runner vibes and also a lot of Ghost in the Shell vibes. Just in terms of story, in terms of concept, it was really cool. This whole idea of cybersecurity, cyber hacking, this cyber world, the cyber future that we're moving towards. It's a really, really fun future. It was one of the reasons why Ghost in the Shell is my favorite anime movie of all time, and is simply the setting in the world and how enticing it is, but also that idea of corporate conspiracy and all that stuff is really, really fascinating. This game harkens back to that style of storytelling, futuristic storytelling. If anyone listens to podcasts, the guys at Giant Bomb, they talked about that as well. Their one of their editors, Jeff Gerstmann, he talks about that and says how that's one of the things that he really liked about that. And I 100% agree with him that it was a great aspect of this game was its storytelling and how very 80s and retro the storytelling was about this. Because if you look at a lot of modern stories that are written today about the future and what it holds for us, it's a very scary world. They paint it as a very dark world, I guess, and where it's almost apocalyptic. So it's nice to see something that's a little bit more exciting and more enticing. So it was something I really enjoyed. But one of the reasons why I'd recommend you definitely try and play through this game once and experience it for what it is before trying to get through these achievements. If you look right here, that guard's going to stay and look in that position for quite a long time before he moves. So use that as an opportunity to get behind this. Another thing I would really recommend when you're playing through this game is you don't have to rush through anything. You can take your time. Anytime you get through an area, guards really have only one um, pattern of movement. So once you figure that out, you can pretty much just you'll know you're going to see the hole in their movement and find the point at which you can kind of move through. Um, so there's really no rush to do it. I mean, all it takes is one guard to see you for you to really, lose whatever bonuses you're trying to go for. So I always, again, pretty obvious recommendation, but one I can't stress enough is always take your time through this, and like I said before, save very often. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is the last area actually. There's in terms of guards, there's really nothing else after this. There's going to be a conversation situation with Zeke Sanders where you're going to try and you can. I mean, again, that's another option you can have. Obviously, you don't want to choose the option where you're going to try and kill him, but you can choose to let him go, or you can try and free the hostage, which I tried to do. Um, but before we do that, your third ebook is going to be right here, and this will be the last one in this area. So make sure you get this one because after this, you can't really come back to this manufacturing plant. So make sure you do that. But anyway, one of the things I found in this also is that this part of the game, I wasn't too thrilled about it. I mean, it was cool the first time. It tried to attempt what Mass Effect and even LA Noire a little bit tried to do in terms of reading your enemy's personality. And if you get the augment with the social skills augment, I forget what it's called, but you're able to read like the different waves of an enemy, and you can use that to your advantage and try and persuade them into um, doing what you want. But for me personally, again, I find that augment kind of useless. If you follow my walkthrough, you'll know exactly what options to choose to get what you want. It's simply a matter of trial and error. They really don't change. They'll change their dialogue sometimes, but they won't exactly change. It doesn't matter what response you choose, as long as you choose the right response each time. No matter what they say, they'll still eventually end up giving you what you want. So you really don't need to get that augment as well. It's the social augment. I personally didn't find it that helpful. Um, at least in this early section. Later on it might be useful, but for the earlier parts, I really didn't find it that useful. This is again this speaking to some of the faults of this game because it does have some issues, and this is one of them. I personally found the facial animations for the visuals of this world, which were really nice, and it had a very very cool artistic vision and artistic its art style was something that I really really enjoyed. But even on the technical end, I mean, the environments themselves were really well done, but the facial animations were something they left something to be desired, and they felt not just a little actually, they felt very dated, and some of the facial animations just felt really weird, and the way the characters kind of moved, there's something about it that was just way off. I wasn't a fan of that, and kind of bouncing off of that, even the voice acting was either very hit or miss. I mean, some people were really good at their, delivered very very good lines, very powerful lines, and then you get the lady here like Josie Thorpe, who's just really just terrible. I can't even explain it, man. It was very very annoying. But especially for a game that I've been praising the story about so much, it kind of sucks that the things that sell the story, which are characters and dialogue, are not always up to snuff. but the content of what they say is very interesting, so I think that makes up for that. So that'll do it for this section. There's really nothing left for me to say. If you watch on the side, you're going to see me get the ghost bonus again. That's a nice way to keep track of whether or not you've completed an area, getting the achievement, and it's a nice set of experience points, and should get you enough to get another practice kit. Um, and yep, there you go, right there, getting the ghost, and gets me a nice 500 achievement points. I talked to Josie here real quick, but that's about it. I think after, there's really not much else. We're gonna head on out, talk to Farida. So next up, we're gonna be back in Detroit and start our next mission. So I'll see you guys then.